Welcome back to Nevada Realtors Today, your place for timely updates on the news and trends that matter to realtors in the Silver State. If you want to know exactly what changes are coming and how to prepare, so you can deliver amazing service to clients and navigate your real estate career with ease, this podcast is for you.
So you are a turnaround CEO and you're leading NAR through significant change. What's your vision for the future of the association?
One, first and foremost, the association has to be strong enough to withstand and future-proof itself as it relates to the real estate industry. We all know that residential and some parts of commercial real estate at least make up 20% of the gross domestic product of this country. It represents investments. It represents people's ability to move from one particular social class to another or maintain their social status in specific areas. It gives people a safety net. It gives people a place to grow, to create families and to create memories. And so I would say there is no other asset in any asset class in America that does all of those things. And so when we think about what we are preserving as it relates to jobs for realtors, as it relates to the entire ecosystem for financial transactions, but also as it relates to consumers and realizing their dreams, you begin to understand that intersection of doing well, but also making sure that you are part of something that is sustainable for years to come. And so our vision is to move along with the market. The reason that I say that is because the market right now is not static. You can imagine in a post-settlement world, many things have changed. And I would argue that there is not one company in America that is touching certainly residential real estate and in some cases commercial that is not rethinking their strategies. And so who NAR was yesterday is not going to be who they are tomorrow. We are in the midst of interviewing survey groups, all of these things right now to make sure that not only do we need to know what our realtors are asking for in terms of help from the National Association, but looking to see what the strategic plans of the larger companies, the mid-tier companies and the smaller companies are doing to make sure that we are continuing to add value to them in whatever way possible. Yesterday, I think we used to be everything to everyone, and there is no place for that right now, given that there are so many strategies. And so we are looking for the through line in all of those strategies to see how we can be helpful. If you're talking about a publicly traded company, there could be risk factors that we can manage. If you're talking about an independent brokerage that wants to continue to grow, there are growth opportunities that we have for them. If you're talking about people who are entering the industry and looking for a second career or a second mountain to climb, there's that opportunity. But there are also second, third, and fourth generation people who are leaving college or probably not going into college, but their families have created these very strong businesses that they are expected to inherit. And so making sure that we understand what their needs are and getting them to that next level to make a very nice, sustainable living for themselves, but also to, again, underpin 20% of the GDP.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
So, Nykia, thank you for being on here. It's really an honor of us to have you on here and speaking to our members and on the podcast, Nevada Realtors Today. I love what you just said there about all the things and kind of almost taking a look at everything and almost reinventing things. That's kind of where we've been at the state level going through that. So we've looked at everything and a lot of times through challenge and change comes opportunity. And with everything that you kind of shared there, how do you see state and local associations playing into the vision with the national, and how do you see us best working together?
One, we must work together in order for this ecosystem to work together. I think one of the privileges that I have of having come from journalism is I've seen the catastrophic end to an industry that used to be mighty that can fall.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding that, realizing that that can happen in any industry is what sort of keeps me motivated. The states and locals are important, and I think you can sort of witness that, be a testament of my having just added Jared Grasso to our team to ensure that that is a relationship that's not a side gig, but that it is a main business. And so he and his team are responsible for traveling around the country, understanding where NAR fell short in the past, understanding where, when there was an absence of leadership, what states and locals had to carry on their own. Get back into that conversation and see how we can punch above our weight class and help. I think people look at sort of three-way agreement or those sort of types of terms as dirty words. Jared will say, these are partnerships, regardless of what you call them, they are partnerships. And so a fundamental aspect of a partnership is give and take. It's not top down, it's not bottom up, it's a combination of both, right? It's not sitting at a table where there's a head person at the table, but it's almost a circular table where everyone all has an egalitarian, equal opportunity to be able to bring their ideas forth. There are states and locals who are much closer to the customer than we are, and we have to lean into that. We can't guesstimate from the national level what people are needing. And so leveraging, I call them relationships. I like how Jared calls them partnerships. So whether you say relationships or partnerships, states and locals are definitely an important part of our go forward strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've really seen more than ever, I think, in this last year, how important these partnerships are and how you said we can't be all things to all people. It's so true. And there's certain things that the locals can do and they do very, very well. And there's things that we at the state can do and augment that we can do very well. And as long as we keep in mind the support and even what NAR does for us when we have to have issues mobilization and these big issues that we're fighting on the state level, and we have the support, even if we're boots on the ground doing it, for us, those relationships are everything. And it's not just calling when you need it, it's actually building on those partnerships and relationships. And like you said, the give and take to make each other stronger and better and looking how we can serve the members and the consumers. There's so many consumers that don't know what we do. So the more we're able to educate them on we're fighting bad property taxes for you, or we're doing certain things at the state level, then they can understand, oh, that's who does that. I just thought that happens. But no, there's actually a group that cares so much about protecting you that that's our day in and day out work. So thank you for that partnership.
I should be interviewing you, Tiffany, but yes, all the things.
Brandon.
I'm super lucky because you guys are both amazing CEOs, and just to sit back and be able to watch what both of you are accomplishing and how you're moving our industry and our associations forward are huge. And one of the things Tiffany's done is she's really built a great team around her. Yeah, and Nevada Realtors doesn't look like what it looked like 2 years ago at all. And I'm sure that NAR doesn't either up there. And you're evolving your leadership team to meet the vision. Can you speak to how you're building that team?
Absolutely. And so I tell people one of the toughest things that a CEO has to do is build a world-class team. And so the first piece of that was bringing in our first chief human resources officer who promised me a world-class team. With world-class talent comes world-class expectations. And so while we are bringing in best in class, there's also a management style difference, making sure that they have the resources they need to keep them motivated in ways that are helpful to the organization. I'm very, very proud of the partners that I have. Very, very proud. I think these are some of the best people in the industry. They want to help solve this problem alongside the volunteer leadership team in board of directors. So we've got a new chief human resources officer. We've got a new SVP of events and education who's starting next week. We've got our sort of core pillars of advocacy, which is Shannon. And then you've got strategic business and partnerships, and that's Mark Burschbach. Those are the pillars who have the institutional knowledge, who have leaned in and said, I want to help. And they're some of the smartest people in the industry. Then I've added a chief financial officer, which is super important. And we are continuing to interview for our comms person. I would say we're probably about 3 weeks away from hopefully making a decision. We're still very much mired in the interview process, but I've seen some incredible candidates. And so I'm almost certain that our choices will come out of that candidate pool. And so that will really round out the rest of the team that's added to Dr. Lawrence Yoon for his research and Jared Grasso. And then you've got the special advisor of Sherry Chris as it relates to making sure that those big broker partnerships, relationships, are those conversations are being brought to the table. We're widening the table for the first time in a very long time. I think one of the most important pieces of information that we've gotten as it relates to feedback is that people have experienced NAR in silos. And so we have to make sure that that's not how they see us. When we bring the house is where the value proposition lives. It doesn't live just in advocacy. It doesn't live just in strategic planning and partnerships. It doesn't live just in state and local relationships or just in research. It's the house. It's the house that makes the value very difficult to break, right? You can't put a dollar value, in my mind, on advocacy plus research plus education and events plus comms plus all of those things. And when you try to deconstruct that, there's no way that you could do that for the amount of money that people are paying at the national level. And so the more that we can bring the house, the less people can deconstruct it and look at it as, I don't see the value proposition.
Mm-hmm. What did the member experience look like in this reimagined NAR?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to quickly pull something up because I have an answer to that. We are still
Okay.
working on it. But what it does is it shows what we are doing as it relates to being first in news. That's super important. Being first voice in real estate.
Mhm.
We talked about being the voice of real estate years ago. Well, that's changed. There are lots of people, lots of businesses, thousands of people, thousands, millions of members who can be a voice for real estate, but we're the first voice. We are leveraging Dr. Lawrence Yun, who is very, very well renowned in research. Just 2 weeks ago, he was called out in the Wall Street Journal as one of the top economists for 2024. Why is that? Because there were 5 economists who ended up predicting more likely than not what would happen. And he was in the top 5 for those predictions having come true. He's world class. And so it is our job to get that information out first from those market statistics, from those economic models, from those psychographics information. People can then decide how they're going to use that information, segment their own populations, and go forth and do the business of real estate. As it relates to being the advocacy partner, of course, people know us for that, but continue to make sure that we are not sapping that of any of its strength. When we're talking about partnerships, it's not just the states and locals, it's not just the big brokerages, it's not just the MLSs, but to your point earlier, Tiffany, it's also making sure that the consumers are brought along to understand that. And so when members call NAR or contact NAR, they need to see the benefits. They need all of those things being brought to bear. And overwhelmingly, from that 75,000 person outreach, because it was surveys, focus groups, and everything in between, that's what they said they wanted. So that's going to be our core. Now, as we continue to talk to more big brokers, more information comes in and we can design on top of that, right? When we talk to more MLSs and understand what their challenges are, you design to bring that on top of that. When you talk to the states and locals, and when you talk to even consumers, one of the things with the consumer guides that we're doing that I think is super important is we're at least giving out these guides whereby realtors can at least start having higher order conversations with their clients, and they always don't have to start at the basic level.